The year is 2012. Finding no success doing comedy on land, the Cleveland Slow tries a different type of venue. Predictably, it does not go well.
Why was Ray never on Red Eye? I was supposed to do it once, and I ended up getting booked for Carnival Cruise Line, and so I canceled it, and then I never got asked back. I was supposed to do Red Eye a few times, and I think they got mad at me. I booked a cruise ship. The only time I booked a cruise ship, it went horrible, but I had to cancel Red Eye like last minute.
The story, as told by the Cleveland Slow.
I forget the one time I did a cruise ship. I don't think I got off after the time I got off the cruise ship when I was doing a cruise ship. All right. So I checked into the cruise early. And then I left my cabin and I walked around ever. And at that time, I'm also already checked in, which also doesn't make sense because I was checked in as a comedian. So I was checked in as a comedian, so I'm like an employee. I've only done what do you call it? I've done a couple cruises. I don't think I did some Carnival cruises. I had a problem that I checked in wrong, and somehow I don't know. I've never been on a cruise, but they kept the boat in for like an extra 6 hours trying to find me.
So where were you leaving out of? Florida?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Florida.
Are you gonna say, or was it? Why you're not?
No, it was down there on the coast somewhere.
Yes, I did a cruise ship. I never did a cruise ship before. I checked in, and then it wasn't leaving the dock for a few hours. Yeah, I was working a cruise ship, and I checked in, and then after I checked in, for some dumb reason, I don't know what the hell I was doing in my head, but I left the ship for whatever reason. And then when I went to check back in, I didn't check in properly and they couldn't find me.
The one time when I did a cruise trip and I was working a cruise, and I didn't check in properly, and they didn't leave because they couldn't find me. And I was asleep in my cabin the whole time.
And you know what you told the cruise? You just got DeVito.
That was maybe the most DeVito that anybody's ever gotten.
Now, the only story I have similar to that where someone just loathed me, where I was it's the only time I did a cruise ship. It was the first time I was doing a Carnival cruise ship, and the only time I did it.
I booked a cruise ship. The only time I booked a cruise ship, it went horrible.
I've done a couple cruises. I did a Carnival. I did a couple Carnival cruises, and I remember you could drink in the employee lounge. It's like pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Slow claims he did 2 or 3 cruises to water down the story and disguise just how colossal a fuck-up he is.
It was the first time I was doing a Carnival cruise ship, and the only time I did it. And I messed up on the checking in. I don't know what happened. I messed up on the checking in so I just had a flight at like 5 a.m. I get to the ship and I just sleep. I just go right in the bed and I sleep. And I somehow messed up checking in. I didn't know the protocol, whatever. And then someone's like knocking on my door, and I answer there and go, "Oh, here he is." And I've been asleep for like 3-4 hours. Like, here he is. They purposely didn't leave the dock yet because they couldn't find me. And someone knocked on my door, and I answer the door, and they're like, he's here. And there's like 5 people outside, like, "Oh, he's here." Like, and then they're like mad at me. So like I left the cruise ship, and then when I went back in, I don't know if it's on me, but they have to check you back in.
It's on you. First of all, how long did you leave the cruise ship for?
Literally like 15, 20 minutes. And then when I came back in, but they can't, like, you can't just walk onto a cruise ship. I guess you have to check in. I didn't know the protocol of checking in, and nobody checked me back in. So they didn't leave the dock.
This is not the first version of the story that I heard from you.
it's weird when you're there, you're new there, you know, nothing going on. And the first things I was like, this guy hates, I guess I checked in wrong. I think I checked in, but then like I don't know if I like left to like get a coffee or something. I don't know what happened. I do remember like coming in and then like leaving the boat for a second, and I guess I never rechecked back in. So that's but I didn't know. But that's also on the fault of the guy who lets people on and off the boats. I didn't check in properly, and they're like, "Oh, he's here." I've been there the whole time sleeping. They couldn't leave because they didn't know I was. They were waiting for me to come back, even though I was already back and I was sleeping in my cabin.
You're right.
I was just asleep in my cabin.
He came back 20 minutes later, didn't check in that he was back.
I didn't know how to check. I'd never been on a cruise ship before. That was my only cruise ship. And I went back into my cabin and I went to sleep. And then someone knocked on my door. I answered the door and like, oh, he's here. It's like, yeah, I was here. So instead of checking my room first to see if I was there, they waited a couple hours for me to come back and before leaving. And it's like, yeah.
Oh, you wandered off and they had to delay the ship.
So I knew that the next time I left the cruise ship, how to check. I go, hey, I'm here. I checked in with everyone. I'm here. Right. I'm here. Hey, I let everyone on the entire cruise ship know I'm here. You're an employee here. My name's Ray DeVito. I'm here. I'm definitely here.
You should.
So leave the dock now.
Strangers for 6 hours.
In typical fashion, the Cleveland Slow compounded his gigantic fuck-up by acting like a massive asshole. Unprofessional would be an understatement.
He's fucking up intercontinental travel.
So like basically all of the people that were passengers had to wait, right? Like they couldn't.
The cruise, they wouldn't leave.
An entire ship.
Like thousands of people.
Because they couldn't find Ray.
None of them thought of just knocking on my door.
It's always the other guy's fault. You didn't think to sign in.
I've never been on a fucking cruise ship.
Okay, well, ask around. If it's your first time on a plane, ask them if you got to check in with anybody.
And then they never asked me to do it again.
Wait a minute. You were on a cruise ship. How many days?
2 weeks.
Oh, God. And you bombed the first night and you had to be stuck with those people?
No. It's not that I bombed. The cruise director hated me because I checked in wrong and I didn't know. And they kept the boat on dock for like 6 hours while they were like looking for me. And I was just sleeping in my cabin and someone like knocks on my door and I answers and she goes, oh my God, he's here. He's here. He's been here the whole time. And they're all pissed at me. And that cruise director hated my fucking guts. And then Alan Ball was the other comedian. He's dead now, who I was friends with. I was always friends with this guy. And we would do the shows. And then after the shows, whenever the cruise director was around, he goes, hey, man, don't take this personal. But when the cruise director, and this guy's name was Malcolm, he's like, when the cruise director's around, I can't really talk to you. This is the only gig I have. And he hates your guts. So I was just going around that whole 2 weeks knowing that the cruise director fucking hated my guts.
How long ago did it happen, Ray? 10 years ago?
Yeah, maybe it's been a while.
And I'm like, well, Jesus, they certainly have changed things because there's absolutely no way you could get on a ship and have no one know that you're on a ship. I mean, I don't know where. Ray, do you remember when you got on the ship? Did you get on with like the passengers? Did you get on?
Dude, I don't remember. I just know I just got on the ship.
I would think you would remember because getting on with passengers, there'd be a bunch of passengers.
Dude, I don't remember.
And when you get on where you're supposed to get on,
I was just up for like 18 hours straight, and I was just like looking for a bed.
Yeah, I mean, I have, like I said, when Ray told me that story, I'm like, I don't even know how that's possible that he got on the. I mean, obviously he did, but I'm like, yeah, you can't even. You can't get on. I mean, unless you like.
Well, I did whatever it is. I didn't check in properly. Whatever it was, I somehow messed up.
No, I get it. I get the story. Yeah, no, I get it. But I'm just like, how is that even possible? Knowing what I know now.
On a list. Your name was on a list to get on the ship, but then you were supposed to go to the entertainment director and also check in.
I have no idea, man.
No, clearly because everyone hates you.
Yeah.
But then it's like, how did he even know where his room was? How did he get in his room? Because you have to check in with you have to meet somebody to get your key or your card.
Bob Biggerstaff has been working the cruise ship circuit for years. He knows that the slow story doesn't quite add up.
For
I don't understand. I still don't understand how you didn't check in right. What did you do wrong?
I don't know. It's the first time I was ever on a. Apparently, I checked in, and the guy said I left the boat, and I didn't check back in when I came in. That's what the guy.
Did you?
I don't remember, dude. I've never been on a cruise ship. I thought
You don't remember if you left the boat or not?
Oh, I did. I did leave the boat. Yeah, I did leave the boat.
Why? Why'd you leave the boat?
Because I got there, I checked in, and then they weren't going anywhere for 4 hours. So like I left the boat, and then I came back in.
To go where?
To like go get something to eat or something. I don't know. I never.
You know that happens. That happens a lot. It happens a lot. To 8.
But I didn't check in. I didn't check in right, and then they kept the ship docked while they were trying to find me, and then someone knocks on my cabin door. It was like, "Oh, he's here. We can take off."
And I never.
Why didn't they check your cabin?
Exactly. They should have checked my cabin.
So they were everybody's just sitting there waiting for you to show up.
Yeah, and it's not like I've been on cruise ships before, so I didn't.
They didn't know that, but was this before cell phones, so they couldn't reach you?
No, this is maybe like 2013-ish, 2012, something like that. So I mean, there were cell phones. I think I had an Android. Nobody called me. Nobody did anything.
But like I didn't know the etiquette. I'd never been on a boat before, so something was messed up. And I just remember like everyone like when they finally found me, they were like, "Oh," like they were. It wasn't like, "Oh, excited." They were like it was just everyone was mad at me.
In the feeble mind of the Cleveland Slow, the story is about how everyone was mad at him, and that wasn't fair. The Slow believes it wasn't his fault, because nothing ever is.
Great. So you left the boat. You just You went sightseeing in Florida, even though you were.
I don't remember.
But
I did leave the boat. I did.
No,
leave
that's
the boat.
stupid. That's stupid.
Yeah, well, I know that now. But
no, why would you check in? You stay on the boat. The boat. Boo. What if you hear that big sound when the boat's about to take off and you're eating at a cafe? Uh-oh. Just stay on the fucking boat. Don't they have food on the boat?
I don't know.
The Slow becomes agitated when people focus on the wrong parts of the story.
My mom hated my guts. When I was a kid, everything that went wrong, every time I would say something, she's like, "No, what really happened?" Anytime I talked to my mom about anything, it was a bummer. It was like all she did is talk about the shitty parts of what I was talking about. And it's like, all right, you're focusing on the wrong thing.
The parts where he causes a 6-hour delay of a cruise ship, costing the cruise line thousands of dollars.
So they did not like me.
Right.
The whole week.
But then you did your comedy and you brought him back, right? Like after you did some stand up, they were like,
"Yeah,"
oh,
but they were just mad at me that I fucked up the chat. No, yeah, it was like the cruise ship director was just upset with me because of the way it started off, and it was like, you're not winning the guy back. You're not getting back in the guy's good graces after that, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
You know how much that costs a cruise ship to like per hour?
Yeah, they stayed there. Yeah.
Plus, also to call the cops. Like there probably was. Where was this? Costa Rica.
I don't know where we were. I never got off the ship when we went anywhere, but I was so upset. And also, that same week, this was a last minute thing. I was a fill-in for another comic that couldn't make it. So it's my first thing. I fucked up the check-in. And also that week, I was supposed to do Red Eye, the Greg Gutfeld show.
Right.
And I canceled because I was getting $2,000 for a week on a cruise ship. And then they never booked me back for Red Eye because I canceled like 2 days before. So I really fucked myself.
So you got the brown eye.
Yeah, because I canceled. I was like in the TV Guide listing and everything, and I was like, "Whoa, yeah." And that was Jesse Joyce, our good friend Jesse Joyce, that got me in there. And so not only did I not get to do Red Eye, and then they never rebooked me, but then also I fucked up checking in. So,
wow.
But I checked.
So they were right. So you didn't check back in.
Yeah. And anyways, who gives a shit? That guy fucking hated my guts.
Who gives
the
a
whole
shit?
2
Yeah, you
weeks.
should give a shit. It's your career on.
Yeah. That guy hated my guts. But Alan Ball,
They were 6 hours behind the whole time.
and I would have never
You
known
can't
that.
make up time on a cruise. You can't go fast on a boat.
Yeah. So the cruise director hated it. And I never
For
would
2
have
weeks,
known.
they were 6 hours behind.
Yeah. You fucking took 6 hours from everybody that paid.
I just remember the exhaust on that woman's face and how pissed she was when I was in the cabin the whole time. I'm like, yeah, I've been here sleeping. And she was like, and just like walked away upset with me. And they were never cool to me. That whole 2 weeks, they hated my guts, hated me.
Listen, I hate to say it, but I'm on their side on this one.
Yeah.
Some guy named Malcolm. I don't know if you ever done Carnival cruises. He was the cruise director. Tall, skinny, gay black dude.
It appears the Cleveland Slow had to pause to stomp down his urge to call the guy an N-word F-slur.
And he was. I was working with Alan Ball, who's since passed away. And Alan Ball was always cool to me. And do you remember Alan Ball? The comedian Alan Ball, I think he passed away.
Yeah, I
That
didn't know
name
him.
sounds familiar.
It was a big, tall guy that had like a green chin thing.
And he was still cool to me then. But even then, that like when I was doing the cruise ships, he's like, "Hey man," he goes, "just a heads up. This is my first day ever doing a cruise ship. I had a couple weeks that I still ended up doing. But he goes, "Hey man, just a heads up. Like we can hang in my room or something, but this cruise director hates you, so don't take it personal if I won't hang out with you when he's around."
Oh.
And he was always cool.
I only heard his name. I worked for Carnival for like
he
the
passed
last
away
6
a few years ago.
He was a big Carnival comedian.
Oh, gotcha.
But anyways, he's always been cool, and he's like friends of mine. And I knew like something was weird when like Alan, who's been a friend of mine, and he's like, we'd hang out and like drink beers or whatever. And he's like, whenever the cruise director comes away, he's like, "Hey, dude, don't take this personal, but when he's around, I can't hang out with you. Like, he really hates you." So like he would just leave me alone. He's like, "This guy really hates your guts. So don't take it personal. We're still friends, but I need this gig. So I can't let him know." Like just knowing that 2 weeks of me on this cruise ship of someone just hating me. And it was like,
it's really funny.
yeah, he was like, "Dude, he's like, he really doesn't like you." And it's like, "And these gigs are my bread and butter. So just when he's around, don't take it personal, but we can hang later." And I'm like, that was my first introduction to cruise ships.
That's great.
So maybe he got in trouble too or whatever.
I just know they hate the guy hated my guts. And I never
somehow it's Alan Ball's fault or the cruise director's fault.
But I would have known how much he hated me if Alan didn't say, "Listen, we can hang out in my cabin or something, but I can't hang
It's so
out."
funny. Alan's talking to you. He sees the cruise director. He has to throw you overboard. So,
so that was
the cruise ship is delayed. Some dumb comedian went sightseeing in a town that we're taking off from. He doesn't understand. You're supposed to wait till you go at exotic locales and then you go sightseeing. And they tell everybody, "Hey, everybody, be back in 3 hours because we're going to be taking off." This guy checks in, then he immediately disembarks.
Yeah, I tried.
And we're going to be on the ship for 2 weeks for this fucking clown.
That guy.
His act
hated
better
my
be fucking.
guts.
His act better be killer. Then they see you're acting like, and his act stinks too.
Why did we wait for him? Why?
Yeah.
We could
We
have
would have
left.
known his act was this bad. We would have took off without him.
So
I
it's
don't know.
like,
I think what
I
happened.
mean, I'm
is
just saying.
checked in.
Obviously, things have changed,
Yeah.
or you had like the greatest.
Here's what I think happened. I checked
slipping
in
through security
All right.
ever on a cruise
All right,
ship.
I'm going to tell the story, Bob. I think here's what happened: is I checked in, and then like I went.
What do you mean you checked in?
Let me tell you the story. I think I checked in, and then I like left to So I
No.
checked
You
out
got to
to,
go
like,
back.
get
How did you check in?
I don't remember. I just know there was obviously some confusion. I think I checked in and I went to get something off the ship and then I didn't check back in or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, I was asleep in my room for like 4 or 5 hours with someone knocking on the door like, oh, here he is. And a bunch of people like, oh, we can
Yeah,
finally
we heard
leave
that.
now.
We got that, Ray.
So-
You're leaving out the. You're
All right,
leaving
I
out
don't
the
want to
best
talk
part.
about
You're
it
like,
anymore, but that's what
you're like,
happened.
I checked
and
in.
Alan Ball wouldn't talk to me whenever the cruise director was around. He talked to me in his rooms, like, you can come hang in my cabin with me.
That
but,
might
like,
have been
I'm
Alan
not
Ball's
hanging out
excuse
at the
for
bar
not
with
talking to you, Ray.
No, that guy, I think his name was Malcolm. He was a tall,
I know, I was
skinny,
joking.
gay black dude, was the cruise director, and he hated my guts. He hated me. Apparently, the other comic
to follow.
wasn't allowed to talk to me. Like, that's when you know, like, that's just a weird, and I don't like that weird energy. I hate going to clubs that I have to go to and work where there's just that negative energy right when I get there. Like, even though I'm like, the shows are fun, but you just feel that negative energy. And, but I hate, it just puts you in a weird, it's like if you're going on a date with a girl and she's already mad at you, like when you're dating a girl, and she's already mad at you and you're doing this date anyways, you just have that in your head the whole time. Like, what, we're just going to put on this charade. Like, we're going to pretend like we're cool for, I just don't like that. No, but I did not know that when you come back in, you have to recheck in to let them know that you're there. I didn't.
See, I'm not trolling him, Marina. I am fucking seeing. I'm just showing you how fucking easy it is to fucking have him just say anything. We know the story 10 times already. Ray, just set up a show and don't worry about everything else.
All right, so that's the end of that story. So, all right.
We know the Cleveland Slow is lying about details of his cruise ship debacle. Certain elements are always changing, and key facts he claims to not remember. Just like with the Slow's I-80 car accident and subsequent GoFundMe scam.
My mom hated my guts. Every time I would say something, she's like, no, what really happened?
To reconstruct an approximation of what really happened, the Institute harnessed the cutting edge of agentic AI. Recursive element theory, assaying Ray DeVito. The Slow usually tells the story with the incident occurring at the port of departure, which may have been in Florida, or, quote, down there on the coast somewhere.
Where were you leaving out of? Florida?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Florida.
Are you gonna say, or was it? Why you're not?
No, it was down there on the coast somewhere.
Sometimes the Slow hints the incident may have occurred at a port of call, possibly a non-U.S. island.
Where was this? Costa Rica?
I don't know where we were. I never got off the ship when we went anywhere.
Over 10 years after the September 11th attacks, boarding security for cruise ships is non-trivial. Given the Slow's documented record of altercations, it seems exceedingly likely the security agents were female.
So I booked a room at Motel 6, just one room with 2 beds. We get there, there's only one fucking bed. I go down to the fucking front desk. And I'm like, hey, the lady's like, first of all, you know what's fucked up? When I went down there and she's like, why are you coming with me with all this attitude? It's like, all right, you're already defensive, meaning you fucked something up. It's like, who else would I go to with this? And she's like, well, you got to call their helpline. It rings at the Motel 6 and she picks up, hello? I'm like, yeah, it's me. This is the helpline to fucking help out. It's you. And she was like, I can't do anything. If you want, you can get a new room with 2 beds in it. I got in a fight with a lady at Planet Fitness. She called the cops. It's like, go fuck yourself, lady. I was at Planet Fitness, and first the lady would not. I asked the lady, I was like, hey, can you change the channel? And then the lady that's like the manager of the night, she's not a real manager there. She came over to me on the bike and was like, can you not tell our employees to change the channels? We can't
it's like, all right, whatever. So she's yelling at me. I go, how about I pick up the bike and move it over to because she's like, it's on way over there. And I was like, all right, I'll pick up this bike and move it. She's like, you can't move the bike, sir. You can't move and I like try to go in the locker room, like, and she like literally was like staying. She's like, oh, you can't get in here. We're closing in 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm just changing. She's like, you can't get in here. And then I went in the locker room anyway. She's like, I'm calling the police. I was like, okay, do it. I could give two shits. I did say to her when she was like yelling at me, when she was screaming, I was like, hey, listen, I'm sorry I look like a guy that broke your heart 20 years ago.
The Cleveland Slow is known to many as a drunk.
It was on a cruise ship. There's not much else you can do. There's nowhere you can go. It was
Can they drink? Because I know Mormons don't drink. Why are you taking a cruise if you can't drink? Isn't that like the whole thing about cruise ships getting drunk on a?
For alcoholics like you, Ray. There are tons of stuff to do on cruise ships.
The Slow may have stumbled up the ramp, flashed his employee badge at the women, and screamed at them, insisting he was already checked in, observing the evil in the Slow's eyes and fearing for their lives. The women may have seen his employee badge and accepted his slurred screams as accurate. The only thing we can really be sure of is that the Cleveland Slow is a liar.
And it's not Carnival Cruise Line because I was the only comedian on the ship.
Why was Ray never on Red Eye? I was supposed to do it once, and I ended up getting booked for Carnival Cruise Line, and so I canceled it.
And it's not Carnival Cruise Line. Yeah, I did some Carnival cruises, and it's not Carnival Cruise Line. It's the only time I did a cruise ship. It was the first time I was doing a Carnival Cruise Ship, and the only time I did it. And it's not Carnival Cruise Line. I did a Carnival. I did a couple Carnival cruises, and I remember you could drink in the employee lounge. It's like pretty cheap.
Yeah.
And it's not Carnival Cruise Line because I was the only comedian on the ship. That cruise director hated my fucking guts. And then Alan Ball was the other comedian. I was the only comedian on the ship. I was working with Alan Ball, and Alan Ball was always cool to me. I was the only comedian on the ship. And do you remember Alan Ball, the comedian Alan Ball?
I only heard his name. I worked for Carnival for like
he
the
passed
last
away
6 years.
a few years ago.
He was a big Carnival comedian.
I was the only comedian on the ship, and I knew like something was weird when like Alan, who's been a friend of mine, and he's like, we'd hang out and like drink beers or whatever, and he's like, whenever the cruise director comes away, he's like, hey dude, don't take this personal, but when he's around, I can't hang out with you. Like, he really hates you. I was the only comedian on the ship. But I would have known how much he hated me if Alan didn't say, listen, we can hang out in my cabin or something, but I can't hang out. I was the only comedian on the ship.
Another victim of the I-80 killer? Rest in peace, Alan Ball. Mid-2022. After another decade of not finding success doing comedy on land, the Cleveland Slow tries to sneak back into the cruise ship industry.
So it looks like I did sign with a cruise agent. I haven't finalized it yet for the cruise ship because the guy that I went with is a guy that's got a lot of pull. I could have gone with the guy that would get me into Carnival crazy fast, but the problem is with him, that's all he does. So he's not going to really work to get me work other places. So I went with an agency that works Carnival and all the cruise lines, so he can get me in all of them. I was advised by friends of mine, like, I'm pretty much in at Carnival, no matter who I go with. So focus on someone that can get you work outside of the place. The only problem is the guy that I could have went with that would have got me in sooner with Carnival. So that's my slight regret. But I want to, before I sign, I want to kind of go over it with the guy that I'm going to sign with and just be like, hey, man, how long, like, if you don't get me work within a certain amount of time, like this, like, what's the timeline for how long I don't get work before I can be like, which, I mean, hopefully that's worst case scenario. I mean, hopefully I'm going to have some work through the guy, and I'm hoping I should, but I just want to protect myself. All right, if I sign with you and you give me nothing for like 3 months, well, then what's the point? I could have done this shit on my own, buddy. So I guess, so I don't know. I got to learn more about contracts. I don't know contracts. Obviously, I don't know the law. I didn't know my dad's will, but yeah, I went over it with a friend of mine who's a lawyer, and I'm glad that I did. And to be honest with you, I'm glad that there was not any foul play. I mean, now there could have been some money like hit, which I don't know. I'll never know that, but it wasn't blatant. Although it is a little weird that the grandchildren who didn't even exist got the lion's share of it. So that's a little weird. Because I mean, when my grandparents died, I didn't get a dime. I didn't think I was getting a dime. So I mean, that's a little odd. So whatever. That is what it is.
In addition to his failed attempt to get back into the cruise ship industry, the Cleveland Slow also made a failed attempt to sue his sisters over his father's will. The Slow's father passed away in 2006. The same sisters he begged to hire him a lawyer so he could sue American hero Franklin Checkler.
The good news is I got in with that cruise line agent, did everything with them. They did a drug test. I just did a joke about it. I passed a drug test, but I put up a joke like, if you pass a drug test, things not so hot. I wanted to be like, when I found I passed, like, oh, how close was it? But I don't know if they'd get the joke. But yeah, I guess I'm done smoking weed when I start working cruise ships. I'll be hanging out with Bob Biggerstaff on the cruise ships. So. Also annoyed with some bookers that I've been talking to and haven't got back. So yeah, I just been in a shitty fucking mood, just a shitty funk.
I did an Alaskan cruise. My parents were going on an Alaskan cruise and said they would pay for me if I came with them, and I'm like, sure.
What'd you do on the cruise? Because I was supposed to start doing cruise ships.
So I walked in for the first like 30 seconds of the comedy show and heard the first joke and just walked out and was never going back in.
What do you remember the person's name? I'm curious.
No, it wasn't even the comedy. It was the cruise ship director who opened it up by saying, we got a good looking crowd here, but you know what they say, 1 out of every 3 people's ugly. Look to your left, look to your right, and I was out of the room. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to it. I'm gonna go to I got unlimited drinks for the whole week. I'm going there. The live music was great. They had like an 80s tribute band that was awesome. But yeah, it's just you'll be in the hot tub and there's a bartender coming over to offer you drinks. You're just drinking nonstop.
Which is weird because like I'm doing cruise ships and like you can't get drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're an employee.
Ooh.
So like yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Do you feel you have the stomach to do or the mentality to do cruise ships?
I have the non-existent bank account that I have to do cruise ships. I have
if you talk
no
to guys,
money.
Some guys love it. They're like, give me as many as you can. That's my life out there. I love it. And then some guys are like, I can't do it.
Yeah, yes, I need to.
Have you done any before?
I did like 2 like years ago.
Okay.
Years ago. And it was all right-ish. But
I think it depends on the line. I think it depends on.
Have you done cruise ships?
What about, wait a minute, what happened about what me and Kevin's idea to have you do, since you were going to go on cruise ships, we were going to film you doing a special on the Staten Island Ferry. Can we still do that?
Jesus
Come on,
Christ.
Ray.
Oh, Jesus.
It's brilliant.
We're supposed to be friends here.
But it's brilliant. Nobody's ever been on the Staten Island Ferry doing comedy back and forth 8 times, and we cut it up, you know? Come on, Ray.
I'm supposed to start working cruise ships, and my buddy, I don't know if you saw this, it was on TMZ. Bob Biggerstaff told me that a white comic got fired from Carnival for using the N-word. I had no idea. And then I saw it was on TMZ, and I know the guy. It's Rob O'Reilly, who's a comic from Cleveland. He's done the Tonight Show. He's a nice dude, and I guess apparently he did say it, but like he's not that type of comic. Like that surprised me. Like I never really knew him. It's like a dude that did edgy jokes or whatever. But I wish him the best because I know that guy, and he's not. Yeah, he's. I never knew him in that capacity. I've never even seen him like do edgy jokes. So so I don't know. I wish him the best, but because of that, it's a PR nightmare for Carnival. So like it backed up their whole system according to my cruise ship agent, but I don't know. He hasn't gotten me in yet. They did the background checks and everything. I'm just waiting to get the email to be like, send in your avails. But yeah, that did not. And you know what? And the guy, that was the other agent I was going to go with, the one who got the Comic-Con that said the N-word. So I didn't go with him. Not that matters. I don't think it's the agent's fault. Still, you can't say that on a cruise ship. What's up? I'm going to come on up here. I'm not a fan of, as you know, like Gino doesn't like me. I'm not a fan of white comics. I'm not even a fan of black comics too much saying that word. Come on up here.
It's all right. I'm going to be all right. It's all going to work out. That cruise ship, I don't want to say the names, but yeah, that cruise ship agent that I'm kind of upset because he's not a big deal, but he was one of the names recommended. And the person who recommended me to him is like, gave me that name. And then they're like, why'd you go with him? He's not. I was like, because you gave me the name, you son of a bitch. That's why. But yeah.
Tell him you want out and you want to go with somebody else. I mean, you have to start at the beginning though.
Well, I told him this. I told him if he doesn't get me work by the end of the year, so yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call the other guy, and you know who the other. My problem with you, buddy, is I told you all the names that were given to me, and all you did is shit on all the names. So you didn't exactly help. Where you're like, well, that guy doesn't.
Well, yeah, I don't have
much.
I don't have one. I mean, all I could do is tell you what I knew about him.
Well, the other guy gave me the names, and I'm like, all right. I'm like, I assume they were all good. And then and he's like, yeah, why'd you go with it? Because you gave me the name. That's why I went with them. And he's like, well, wait, I never would have. I didn't come up with his name out of the fucking air. I didn't just grab a name and be like, yeah, let me have this guy be my agent for this. No. So, yeah, so that's fine. I don't mind starting at the beginning if I have to, but I'm like, dude, but I'm going to give him a call when we get done with this, just to see like, what's up? What's going on?
Sure.
So this will be
that's understandable.
I'll give him another like month, but it's like, why am I with you? You've got me no work. All you're doing is preventing me from working. So there's got to be some like rule there. But I should have been suspicious when I went to the website and like a lot of the comics I saw who are very funny comics, but they're not what do you call it? Cruise ship appropriate, if that makes sense. And I'm like, no, that's a really funny dude, but he doesn't have 20 minutes of clean stuff.
I like how you said he's not cruise ship appropriate. I mean, he's a really funny dude. Like you just said, really funny dudes aren't working cruise ships.
No, I meant he's definitely a nightclub act.
I know, but that's what it sounded like. Yeah, but you know, I mean, hey, you'd be surprised. The R-rated shows. I mean, everything I do is stuff I do at a club. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, look at my dry bar is supposedly the very next season coming up because I talked to them. So, but yeah, like I mean, everything I did at my dry bar are jokes I do regularly. I just took out the swear words. I just took out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy.
I had the #1 special for 4 weeks on dry bar. What did that get me? Fucking nothing.
No, it'll get you something. You'll start getting some gigs out of it for sure. I'm sure. It's good to have that because people want clean comedy. They want a guy who can headline clean.
It got me some stuff. Like even
do some cruise ships.
Yeah, I might have went with the wrong cruise ship agent. I'm still looking into that. Again, I don't know. I don't have anything on my record. I've never been arrested in whatever. There's nothing on my record. So that people have done background checks on me for cruise ship work, and you have to have a clear record. So there's no arrest on me. So
The Cleveland Slow likes to tell people that he has never been arrested. He is lying. The Slow was arrested for DUI in March of 2020, just before the pandemic lockdown.
What did not help is that a police officer arrested me and said I was on narcotics and everything. That was not a fun.
So this police officer arrested me for, first of all, I said I was on narcotics, so I got a DUI. But yeah, he arrested me. I was arrested for a DUI. I was arrested for having medications, narcotics that don't belong to me, trying to distribute, whatever. That was my time on a cruise ship, which I'm supposed to. I got to get rid of my cruise ship agent because it's been a year and he hasn't gotten me any work yet.
Ray,
So-
I think the parting of the ways has happened. If he hasn't contacted you for work for over a year, you don't need to call.
He sends me emails every month saying like, "Hey, I'm pushing you here. I'm pushing you here." So yeah, the fact that
Why do you gotta get rid of him? Just let him keep pushing you till he gets a gig.
Because I know people that work on the cruise ships, and they're saying, yeah, I wouldn't. Because I guess he had a few clients on the cruise ships that didn't do so hot, so they really don't use his roster anymore. And this is coming from my buddies who work on the cruise ships. So therefore, I got to get a new guy. Because I mean, I have a dry bar special that's ready to go.
Hey, Ray, is this the type of cruise ship gig where you have to be clean, but then you can be dirty? The Late Show.
Yeah, there's a few cruise lines, but I'm working 0 of them, so I don't even know. By the way, I'm gonna call what do you call it? That guy, the initials DC.
The cruise ship entertainment agent with the initials DC. The Cleveland Slow is secret agent, 00 stupid.
Because I'm done with the cruise ship guy. He didn't get anything. You know who I'm talking about. We don't got to say the guy's name, the guy that I got to dump, but like he didn't get me. Like you told me, he doesn't have like that great of a reputation. I still see his emails. Like he's like I'm one of his top 5 guys. And
yeah, I mean it's a tough thing, man. I mean, he literally something could happen tomorrow, but I hear what you're saying. It's been so long.
It's been so long, and that dude's done nothing. Like so, I'm like, all right, I got to move on to the next.
Working the cruise ships is actually a job that is for comedians. It's in high demand. I mean, there's a lot of it's good. It's really good money, and I mean, people seem sometimes some people still have the idea that working on the cruise ship is like, well, that's the end of your career, and it's like no, because I do the same jokes I do at a club. I don't, some guys, yes, some guys do have just like a cruise ship act.
Yeah.
Where like if you saw him do it at a club, you'd be like, oh my God.
I have a cruise agent and he stinks and I got to get a new one.
I know the guy. Yeah.
No, he's got like dirty comics on his, and I'm like, dude, I know that guy. He's a funny comic, but there's no way he can work a cruise ship. Why is he like on your cruise
Well,
ship?
now you could do dirty comedy on cruises. It's a lot changed over the past 5-6 years. They start X-rated shows and
you could stab a guy. Yeah, but my cruise agent stinks, and
So
I
they
could have had a
judge you?
pick of a few of them.
You still got a pick of a few of them.
Well, what upset me is my buddy Bob Biggerstaff. I don't remember Bob Biggerstaff. Funny
Yeah.
comic. He does cruise ships all the time. And when I was picking a cruise agent, and like my one buddy that does cruise, like he's like, here, I referred you to these guys, and all the guys he gave me. But then I asked Bob, I go, all right, these are the guys. And Bob's like, that guy stinks. That guy stinks. That guy stinks. So I was like, all right. And then when I picked the one, he goes, why'd you go with that guy? That's the worst guy. He's also a magician or whatever.
They
And I'm
all
like-
say that about
And I'm like, dude, I asked you, which one of these 3 do I want? And you're like, and he's like, you picked the worst one. I asked you, and you were like, they all stink. Well, pick one that doesn't stink as much.
Who's he with? Let's throw that out there.
Yeah. No, he got in on his own before you.
Oh, yeah, one of those godfathered in people.
The Cleveland Slow cannot be bothered to do the most basic research about the current state of the cruise industry. The Slow has a fundamental disrespect for potential employers and for audiences.
Well, it's better than a cruise ship. Cruise ships is like just fat middle Americans. They only go to the comedy shows because they're included on the cruise ship.
they don't got to pay a dime to go to them. They can
Yeah.
just wander in and like, oh, there's so.
Oh, yeah.
They can
When
be
I was-
shittier crowds. I ran on the treadmill on the cruise ship. They suck because they move. Like you're
Wait,
not
you went on a
sturdy.
cruise and no one pushed you off?
You can hardly tell the ship
no.
fucking moves.
More than 18 months since the beginning of his attempt to re-enter the cruise industry. The Cleveland Slow is still waiting for the phone to ring. Waiting for a call that will never come.
As the great parliamentarian Edmund Burke said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And that, in essence, is why I'm here today.